KUNC and the NPR network, this is In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Technology that could tell the plants in your vegetable garden to ripen exactly when you want them. That's the promise behind new research out of Colorado State University. Researchers there have been working to create what they call genetic toggle switches embedded in the DNA of plants. The researchers plug synthetic DNA into a plant's genetic material and use it as a switch that tells the plant to ripen or flower or grow. Professors June Medford and Ashok Prasad led this research into plant biology and recently published their findings in the journal ACS Synthetic Biology. And they joined me to talk about how these toggle switches work and how it might eventually change the produce section at your grocery store. June, I would like to start with a big picture question. Why are you interested in developing switches that humans can use to control plants?
What we want to do is basically begin to develop the ability to program a plant the same way you would program a computer. And this is the first step, is just to make an on-off switch. And then we can build on these things just like you build on programming computers and get up to where you can totally program plants to totally serve humanity.
Don't we already have ways, though, of getting tomato plants, for example, to ripen sooner in traditional agriculture? Why is it important to be able to control crops in this way?
You can get them to ripen, but not well, or you can do what growers have done for years, is they ripen them with a gas called ethylene, and that makes them, if you've had those tomatoes in December that taste like cardboard, that's why. Yeah.
Ashok, you have explained that plant biology is similar to an electrical circuit. You can swap out pieces of the circuit and insert a switch that tells the plant when to ripen. Can you explain in a general way how and why this works?
So the first thing is, let me try to get into the analogy between an electric circuit and what happens in a plant. So just as an electric circuit carries information in a wire and then it goes to, say, different components of the electric circuit. For example, if it's an electric circuit turning on the light bulb in your house, the wire would then be connected to a switch and the switch would turn the light bulb on and off that you would operate. So similarly, the cellular processes in the plant are controlled by proteins that interact with each other in different ways, in different chemical ways, as well as interact with genes that are, of course, sitting on the DNA in the cell of the plant. So these systems are modular, very much like electronic circuits are modular. It allows us to, as you said, swap out or swap in a synthetic component which is designed with these biological principles in mind, but is designed completely synthetically and which is controlled by us rather than by the plant.
So you're building a custom circuit within the plant using proteins and genetic material.
Absolutely.
Interesting. June, you grow these genetically edited plants at a test site on the CSU campus. What kinds of plants are you ripening at unusual times there?
Right now, this is all in a laboratory plant called Arabidopsis. It's really not very useful for much, but plant work can sometimes be slow, like watching the grass grow. So we first show that it's going to work in Arabidopsis, and then we can go on to other plants and other systems. And Ashok and I are already talking about doing that.
Arabidopsis? Is that a plant that I would know by another name?
No, it's a mouse ear crest is its common name. It's pretty much a weed that comes up. It's about the size of a quarter, grows in the sidewalk crack, and then dies.
Okay. June, how could this technology be helpful or even necessary for our food systems in the future?
So if you want to control that tomato ripening, if you could just turn on a switch with something like a light pulse or something like that, somebody go by with a flashlight, give them a pulse of blue light, and then they all ripen at once. Or imagine if you wanted the watermelon and you didn't have to go to the grocery store and thump and see if you got a decent watermelon. They were all perfectly ripe, perfectly sweet. If we could give that ability to our growers and our farmers, that would be very powerful.
I would love it if it could help me pick out the perfect avocado. I have so much trouble with that. Ashok, you have joked about using this technology to make giant pumpkins that could win fall festivals everywhere. But this kind of control over nature might make some people feel uneasy. What do you worry about if this technology becomes widely available?
So that's definitely an important question. We do want to make sure that genetic circuits that we put out in the world are circuits that are safe for people to use and are safe for our crops and our food systems. I think in the beginning, we would probably want to use these circuits not for food, not for making pumpkins that we eat, but for commercial products. The reason why I find the giant pumpkin compelling is that it's a tiny pumpkin plant that produces this giant pumpkin, right? So that in some ways, it's an analogy for the kind of potential that plants have to benefit humanity. I think with the increase in technology, with our understanding of the technology, and with a deeper appreciation of biological complexity, we would be able to start making things that we can assure people are safe.
June, are there downsides to being able to make a crop ripen anytime during the year? I keep thinking that sometimes patience is one of the most important ingredients when you're trying to grow something.
Indeed. I love to garden too, like anyone here in northern Colorado. And however, I sit and I wait for my tomatoes to ripen. Wouldn't it be nice, even here in northern Colorado, if I could get that big, beautiful tomato to taste decent in June or July and not have to wait till late August, and then I get hundreds of them and I can't eat them all at once?
CSU professors June Medford and Ashok Prasad are researching what they call genetic toggle switches that can be inserted into plants in order to control their growth. We'll include a link where you can learn more about their research in our show notes and at KUNC.org. We like to share feedback from listeners from time to time. We recently heard from a listener who enjoyed our episode about the CSU bison herd living on the Soapstone Prairie. Joshua writes, I was thoroughly engaged with your piece on the CSU Bison Project, a genuine story about people making the world a better place. I talked to my wife with gratitude that I caught your story. With joy in my heart, I exclaimed, this is why I love NPR. Great job, and keep up the good stuff. If you missed that interview about bison last week, you can find it in our podcast feed, wherever you get podcasts, or head to our website, KUNC.org. And if you want to share your own feedback with us, email us at noco@kunc.org. That's NOCO@kunc.org. That's it today for In The NoCo. I'm Erin O'Toole. Thanks so much for listening.